gonna join me for my video. Oh, hi. Hello. Hello everybody, long time no see. I haven't uploaded on YouTube in a minute. I just thought I would give you guys kind of a life update. I feel as though there is a lot that I haven't really spoken about, especially the things that have kind of happened in my life this year. But I finally feel like I'm ready to get a lot off my chest and share details that I've kept more private throughout the year. As you can probably tell from the title of this video, I have a lot to talk about. I am just gonna get straight into it, I think, but I'll start from the start. So on the 2nd of March earlier this year, I was on my way home from work and I was involved in a car accident where someone hit me from behind at a really fast pace. So I had a little bit of pain afterwards. I went to go get a head CT, and when I was in my CT, hello, I was lying down in the machine and there was one girl outside the room looking at the scans that came up on the screen as the machine was progressing with my scan. And at one point I saw her kind of run out of the room really fast, and I remember thinking there must be an emergency back in the clinic area where the waiting room was. That's why she had to run with this much urgency. Anyway, she actually came back a couple of seconds later with maybe 3 or 4 other nurses or doctors, and there were 3 or 4 or 5 people standing around the computers where you could see my CT scan come up on the screen. At that moment I thought they must have seen the cyst that I have in my brain, which, yes, I have a cyst in my brain. It came up a couple of years ago when I got an MRI. It's nothing to be worried about really. A lot of people have them and don't know about them, but yeah, anyway, I have a cyst in my brain. So I thought that that's what they were going to be looking at. So fast forward a few days, on the Friday night, which I think was the 5th of March, I am set up to have an over the phone doctor's appointment with a random doctor to get my CT results, just to confirm a concussion and just make sure there were no further injuries really. It was 9 p.m. and I remember I was at my mum's house. I was sitting right next to her. We were in the middle of a conversation. It was just us. Ezra wasn't there. He was at a work function, and I got the phone call from the doctor. I answer the phone and he goes, "Hi, you got a CT the other day." And then he asked me to kind of explain the situation, why I needed a CT. And so I explained the car accident situation. I said I had some like blunt force on my head. I hit my head on the steering wheel. When the girl hit me from behind, I hit my head on the steering wheel really hard and then back on the headrest behind me. And I'd had a migraine ever since, so I just thought I would get a CT to check for any further injuries. And he started questioning me about my previous history that's not even really related to the car accident at all. So I have sinusitis. I've had it for a long time, and it basically means that your sinuses are blocked or shaped weirdly, so you can't get enough airflow through your nose, or it can cause some headaches sometimes, which is how I found out that I have the cyst in my brain, because I needed to get a CT for a lot of frequent migraines back in the day. He said, you know, when was the last time you had a CT? And I said, oh, it was probably about 7-8 months ago. It wasn't that long, but it also wasn't yesterday. And he says over the phone, okay, well, in this CT that you've just gotten done, I can see that you have a brain tumor. My face just kind of dropped, and my mum noticed the immediate shift in, I don't know, I guess how I was acting. But it was at that point where I got up because I was going to burst into tears, and I walked to the other end of the house where nobody was, just so my mum wouldn't see me cry and think that something was wrong. So then he sends me for an MRI with contrast. He just wanted some more information on kind of what this was. He could see where they were located. Meanwhile, it was horrible having to tell my family. I was we were all in tears. We didn't know what was going to happen. We weren't really told any information because the doctors needed more information themselves. I told everyone that was really close to me that I thought I would need the emotional support from, and I was surrounded in so much love and so much prayer and so much positivity. I've never experienced that level of support before, I guess. And it was really heartwarming to see that whatever I was going to have to go through in the future, I wasn't going to be alone. I had such a great support system behind me. So I felt really comforted in knowing that. Anyway, a couple of days later, I got into an appointment with my regular GP, who actually mentioned that I have 2 tumours, which the first GP that I spoke to over the phone said, but because I was so zoned out, my brain was kind of everywhere, the phone line was a bit weird, I just didn't really hear that part, that I actually had 2. So this is where I'm going to go into my notes on my phone and actually kind of read exactly what they told me about these tumours. So my GP said to me that I have 2 tumours. He said that they were both near the nerve endings on my ears. So I had one on this side and one on this side. He mentioned that usually they require monitoring for a few years and then surgery to remove once they begin causing problems. He also mentioned that they were both benign tumours, and about 80% of the time they don't become aggressive and cancerous, which was comforting as well to know, but also I was trying not to focus my brain on the 20% chance that they would become aggressive and cancerous. It was all just a lot of information to take in. So I was having symptoms already, but because of my sinusitis that I have, I just palmed them off as sinus issues because the symptoms of both of these ailments present themselves in really similar ways. For example, my symptoms were extreme fatigue, dizziness, decreased vision, constant headaches, tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, which I had a lot. But yeah, I kind of just put it all down to my sinus issues because my sinuses being blocked can cause a lot of those symptoms as well. So I didn't think twice about it really, but they said that the tumours are already pressing on the nerve endings in my ears and that my hearing can irreversibly deteriorate really quickly. I had a chance of losing my hearing, of losing my vision, depending on where they were pressing on in my brain. They also mentioned that the type of tumours that I have are extremely rare and they're part of a hereditary gene mutation normally, which is weird because nobody in my family ever has had this. Oh, hello, sir. Because of that, my kids have a 50% chance of receiving that gene, which really made me just, yeah. They were also concerned because in my recent CTs and MRIs for my sinus problems a couple months prior, nothing had come up. So they thought, okay, these tumours have grown pretty quickly and she's already showing symptoms. So I was sent off for more tests, one of those tests being an audiogram, so where they were going to test my hearing. At this point, I was really thankful to God that he put me in that car accident, because I thought if I hadn't have been in this car accident, then who knows when we would have found out about this. And hi. Hello, you lie down. Good boy. Such a good boy. So yeah, then there was just a waiting game in between the time that I got my MRI done in the machine to the time where I would get the results, and I wanted to get these results from my regular GP instead of just a random one, so I had to wait even longer. And this all happened over the span of about a month or so. So over the next couple of weeks where I was awaiting my MRI results and results from other tests, I was surrounded in so much love and so much light, and it really caused me to think about what I want for myself and for Ezra and I, and what I want for my future. And it really opened my eyes. Even though I wasn't necessarily given a death sentence, I did have the feeling of like my time was going to be cut shorter than I want it to be, which was a very scary thing to have to go through. And I feel like that was the elephant in the room for a long time. I feel like everyone was just being so positive, but that was also just in the back of everybody's minds. It was a very intense few weeks. Ezra and I had a million conversations about what we wanted to actually achieve. And yeah, and although I don't really like to plan things as such, because I know so much can go in a way that you weren't necessarily expecting, I thought about the fact that there were so many things that I was putting off because just thought that it wouldn't work out because of some silly worldly illogical excuse. It kind of just made me feel really grateful for all the time that I had so far and what I have experienced in my life, all the positive and the negative and everything in between. There's not really any other word to describe it except gratitude. I really can't explain how much this experience opened my eyes. So fast forward a couple of weeks after that, I get my MRI results back, and I went into the appointment by myself because of COVID. I couldn't bring anybody in, it had to be just me. My GP was looking at his computer and I saw his face kind of screw up a little. He was like, I was just praying that I would get good news. I think we all were, everybody that knew about it. He said, your MRI has been sent off to a couple of different people so that they can actually read the scans properly, because this was such a rare diagnosis. He said, we can't actually see them in this scan. And I was like, what? What does that mean? It had been checked off by a doctor that specializes in neuro. He was like, oh, we all must have read your scans incorrectly. That means that you don't have them. That means that we got your first CT wrong. I said to him, you're joking. I said, I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe it. It's impossible to explain the weight that was lifted off my shoulders in that moment. It was nothing like I've ever felt before. It was such a beautiful thing, and I felt like I had been gifted so much extra time that I didn't have just before. It was such a weird feeling. I don't even have the words to describe that feeling, and reliving it as I'm talking about it now is just so surreal for me. I know that God gave me that situation for a reason, and that is something that I can see so clearly. I could see it at the time, and I am very, very, very thankful that I went through that. During this whole time, even down to calling my friends and family afterwards and telling them that the doctors had read my scans wrong, I was surrounded in so much love, and it really showed me what mattered the most in the world. And that is love. I think to choose to act in love, to give love, to receive love, I think is just the most important thing on the planet. That was 6 months ago. I feel like the last 6 months has been the biggest in my whole life for my growth as a person, as a wife, as a follower of God. I really think that the past 6 months have just been such a blessing. So much has happened, things that hurt me at the time but I realize now are a blessing. I took some time off social media and putting myself out there because of a lot that I was going through with my anxiety and my mental health, and I feel like about 6 months ago was where my healing journey really began. I had such an intense want to heal physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I wanted to heal myself. That was when I really took a step back and thought that I can heal as well, because before then I didn't really think that it was possible for me. I thought that this was just going to be how things were for my whole life, and that the things that had happened to me all up until this stage where I'm 20 years old, which is still so very young, I thought that that would just impact me for the rest of my life. And it will in a way, but I always thought that it was going to be a negative impact. I feel like now I've really been able to flip it, and I think being able to see the positives in everything, even in negative situations, for me has really made the biggest difference. So that's where I'm at. Not long after the misdiagnosis, Ezra and I moved out of our beautiful house, our rental, our first house that we ever had together, which was very happy. It was happy because we know that we're moving on to the next step for us. We miss that place so much. We loved having our own space. It was so much fun. I am just editing this video now, and I actually forgot to mention that I quit my job as well. So I was working in a job that just wasn't very me, and now I'm working in a field that I love. So that's been another lifestyle change that I've gone through recently. And yeah, I just wanted to add that because I knew there was something that I was forgetting, but I forgot to actually say it in the video. So anyway, back to the video. So we've had a few lifestyle changes in that regard. We've moved in actually with my dad until we can achieve our next goal, I guess is the best way to put it, which shouldn't be long. I don't know how much I want to say, but it's something that Ezra and I have wanted to do for a very long time, and by God's grace he's given us all of these tools to be able to do it finally, and it just feels so refreshing and relieving, and I'm really excited for the future. I've been really focused on taking care of my mental health lately and finding things that work the best for me, because I find that when I take good care of my mental health, I don't have as many flare-ups with my anxiety, for instance. And a few of the things that I have actually done for that have been getting off birth control. I used to have a hormonal IUD and I don't anymore, and it's the best thing for me. It's been a couple of months since I've been off birth control and I feel so much better. My anxiety has decreased so much. My motivation is higher. I'm so much happier to actually have a menstrual cycle now. My libido is higher. My skin is better. I'm just, all in all, very grateful to be off that. Now, another thing that actually Ezra and I have done together is we eat majoritively plant-based now. So we've cut 95% of our processed food intake. We don't eat meat anymore, except for the occasional fish like salmon we love. So we will eat that occasionally, but for the most part we don't eat meat anymore. And I have noticed just how good that has made me feel. And Ezra has said it too. He always says to me that he feels so much better. And it's just funny how much of an actual difference it really makes to your mood that we've found anyway. So that's another thing that's really been helping us. And yeah, my anxiety has been very manageable. I've been coping really well. I can't remember the last time I had a panic attack, which is such a blessing. This is something that I want to speak more in depth about, but I feel like this video is already getting too long and I could talk about anxiety for a very long time. So I will dedicate some time to make another video about that. But yeah, I'm very excited for all of these positive changes that are happening in my life. I really just couldn't be more grateful or happy at the moment. I feel so relaxed and calm, and it feels good because I haven't felt this way in a very long time. But yeah, I just thought that this is something that I'm ready to talk about now. I'm ready to open up about it. I'm excited to open up about it. That's all there is to it, really. I hope you guys are doing well too. I know Melbourne at the moment are in lockdown, which is where I currently am, and we're in lockdown for the sixth time. I feel like we're all seasoned pros at this now. I think we know what to expect. So with all that said, I think I'm going to close out the video now. I'm sending you all my love and a virtual hug because I can't cuddle you in person, so a virtual hug. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you've watched the whole way through, thank you. I feel like this video is going to be so long, so I'm really grateful. But I will see you guys in my next video.